Heartwarming reunion. Millionaire discovers his ex-wife and their three amazing triplets at a cafe. Jack Thompson leaned back in his chair, his breath catching in his throat. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, mixing with the sweet smell of pastries and cinnamon rolls, wrapping the cafe in a cozy blanket of warmth. But the joy didn't reach his heart as he caught sight of Emily, his high school sweetheart. Laughing, vibrant, she was seated at a table with their triplets, now almost 10 years old. The kids resembled both their parents. Jack's determination and Emily's compassion danced in their bright eyes. In that moment, his heart raced like the time he had proposed to her under the stars. The laughter around him heightened the bittersweet pang in his chest. As they bantered, their voices pulled him back to better days, picnics in the park, lazy weekends filled with joy. But reality crashed in with the weight of guilt. 10 years had slipped by since their divorce. 10 years filled with ambition and success that made him a millionaire. Yet it had cost him everything he had once held dear. The emptiness of his wealth felt like a throbbing wound. He hadn't just lost Emily. He lost a piece of himself. With a determined gulp, he considered approaching her. The cafe hummed with chatter, the clinking of cups and heartfelt conversations creating a lively backdrop. He remembered their dreams, their plans to conquer the world together. Now, as he watched her face bloom with laughter, the memories twisted into gripping regrets. Had he wanted success so badly that he abandoned the love of his life? As he gathered his courage, a sudden wave of nostalgia washed over him. He could almost hear the echoes of their love flying through plates of steaming pancakes and cups of hot chocolate. Jack took a deep breath, conflicting emotions bubbling within him. Should he simply offer help? Or should he strive to earn her trust back? Reconnecting on a personal level? The weight of the decision threatened to crush him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The children noticed his presence, their innocent excitement filling the air as they shared snippets of their lives with him. Each smile ignited a flicker of hope in Jack's heart. But whispers around the cafe pointedly reminded him of his past mistakes. Could they trust him again? Would Emily ever forgive him? The emotional tension peaked when Jack took his seat at their table. Their conversation began to thaw the years of distance and apprehension. Yet every laugh seemed like a fragile crystal on the verge of shattering. As they exchanged stories, he caught glimpses of the vibrant family life he yearned for. Underneath the warmth flickered a question, a whisper of hope intertwined with doubt. Could love knit together what was once so terribly frayed? But the truth lingered just below the surface. Tonight, a charity event was on the horizon, an evening where his wealth might shine, and he might find a way to publicly help Emily. The question bubbled up inside him like a surge. Would he raise his hand to contribute or keep it hidden, afraid of judgment? As he locked eyes with Emily, both vulnerable and steadfast, one thing was clear. The path to healing was fraught, yet full of possibilities. Could love truly mend the scars of their past? Jack's heart raced as he pulled out the chair, the sound of it scraping against the floor like a jolt of electricity. Emily paused, surprised, her laughter fading into a soft hum of curiosity. The triplets turned their heads, eyes wide, exchanging quick glances that mirrored both excitement and uncertainty. "Dad!" one of the boys exclaimed, a hint of joy in his voice. Jack couldn't suppress the smile that broke across his face. Hearing them call him that wrapped around him like a warm blanket, yet it also deepened the chasm of regret he felt for the years missed. "Hey there, buddy," he responded, his voice thick with emotion. The other two joined their brother, all three bouncing in their seats, eager to share. They started talking over each other, spilling stories about school and friends, their voices blending into a joyful melody. Jack listened, truly listened, his heart swelling with pride. Emily, monitoring the chaos that ensued, looked at Jack, a mixture of surprise and caution in her eyes. "What brings you here, Jack?" she asked, her tone steady but laced with a nervous undertone. He could sense the protective energy, the natural instinct of a mother who had raised their children largely on her own. "I was just passing by," he stammered, suddenly aware of the weight of his words. "But I saw you all here and, well, I couldn't just walk away." The honesty of his admission felt freeing. The sweet smiles from his children and the guarded gaze of Emily momentarily pushed the ache of the past to the background. He focused on the laughter, the way their faces lit up, combining features from both parents. They were a tangible piece of his past. Jack tried to connect. "What are you guys eating? Those cinnamon rolls look amazing." He gestured toward the plate in front of his daughter, who was in the middle of an enthusiastic bite. "Amazing. You should try one, Dad," she replied, her mouth full but happiness radiating in her eyes. The cozy warmth of the cafe faded as Jack found himself swallowed by memories. He reminisced about the first time they sat at a cafe like this, on a rainy day, talking about their future. They had such big dreams. He had been so focused on a career, the numbers, the wealth. Every laugh at the table beckoned him back, reminding him what he truly wanted. Jack leaned forward, his gaze locking with Emily's. It was the moment of vulnerability he had both wanted and dreaded. "Emily, I know I've messed up, but I want to be here for you and the kids. If you'll let me, I want to help." She held her breath, eyes narrowing slightly as if weighing his words. The noise of the cafe faded into an uneasy silence. He could almost hear the pounding of his own heart. "Help how?" she retorted, folding her arms defensively. "With money, or by being a father this time around?" The truth stung. He knew he had to offer more than just financial support. "No, I mean emotionally. I want to be involved. I want to try to be the dad they need, the husband you deserve." The tension in the air thickened, a fragile shroud of hope hanging between them. Emily searched his eyes, searching for any hint of insincerity. "Jack," she began, her words trailing off as uncertainty flickered in her expression. Just then, the door to the cafe opened, and a tall man stepped in, his presence commanding immediate attention. Jack's attention divided. Who was this newcomer? He felt an instinctive surge of protectiveness rise within him, sensing that this unexpected arrival could change everything. "Emily," the man called, a wide smile spreading across his face as he strode toward their table. Jack's stomach twisted. Who was this guy? As Emily turned towards him, all attention shifted, and in that moment, Jack felt the fragile threads of possibility begin to unravel. What was about to unfold before him? Jack's heart sank. The man approaching had an air of confidence, an undeniable charm. He was tall, with an easy smile that made Emily's eyes brighten in a way that sent a jolt of fear through Jack. Could this be someone special? A new chapter in their lives that he had no part in? "Hey, Mark," Emily replied, obviously pleased to see him. Jack clenched his jaw, focusing on the triplets instead, trying to hide the shattering feeling inside him. The laughter at their table had grown quiet, replaced with whispered curiosity about the newcomer. The three of them were staring wide-eyed at their mother and the strange man. They could sense the shift in the atmosphere, the thickening tension wrapping around them like fog. Jack could barely think. He wanted to scream, to grab Emily's hand and pull her back to him. But instead, he watched as Mark leaned down, ruffling his daughter's hair. A perfect mix of protection and familiarity, and it stung. "Nice to see you all," Mark said, not even glancing at Jack. He carried with him a warmth that made it evident he was integrated into their lives. "What's on the menu today?" Jack felt like a ghost at his own family's reunion, invisible but painfully aware of the reality. He resisted the urge to protest, to demand how this stranger could just walk in, taking up the space he had always envisioned returning to. "Cinnamon rolls. We just told Dad he should try one," shouted one of the boys, his excitement blurring Jack's perspective. Did they see him standing there? Did it matter? "Sounds delicious. I'll have to get one. Mom, you've got to try their pumpkin spice lattes, too." Mark's casual confidence threw another weight into the air, one that Jack was struggling to lift. He turned to Emily, desperate to find something familiar in her voice. "Emily, we need to talk. Please, can we just—" But she cut him off with a gaze full of uncertainty, nervously darting her eyes between him and Mark. She started, clearly torn. It broke Jack's heart to see her like that, the battle between her past and present waging open in front of him. "I'm not sure this is the right time. Why don't we catch up later?" Mark interjected smoothly, wrapping an arm around Emily's shoulder in a way that felt possessive, like he had every right to be there. It made Jack bristle. Let the kids enjoy some time with their dad. The way Mark emphasized dad felt like a punch. He was setting boundaries Jack hadn't prepared for, and it rattled his already frazzled nerves. "Yeah, okay." Jack forced a smile, even though it hurt. "Great idea. Right, kids?" The triplets' faces were confused, looking back and forth between their father and the man who seemed very much at home in their lives. Jack's gaze shifted back to Emily. Would she really allow Mark to take his place so easily? As Mark chatted animatedly, Jack felt the walls closing in. The noise around him blurred, voices merging into an echo of laughter, clinking cups, and the gentle hum of conversation. The very atmosphere he had longed to step back into now felt so foreign. Suddenly, Jack stood. "I need some air." The decision crashed over him, a wave of desperation rising in his chest. "I'll be right back." He walked quickly toward the door, the distant laughter shrinking behind him. The cafe's fresh air hit his face, momentarily invigorating him. He took a deep breath, trying to steady the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside. What was he going to do now? He had come to reclaim his place, but what if it was already taken? Behind him, he could hear the jingle of the cafe bell as someone followed him out. Was it Emily? Mark? His heart raced again, anticipation tightening his chest as he prepared for whatever showdown was about to happen. "Jack!" The voice called out, and he turned, bracing himself for the next revelation in a story he had thought he understood. The moment he turned, he collided with Emily's worried expression. Her brow furrowed, and Jack could see the emotions flickering in her eyes: concern, regret, perhaps even longing. "Jack, wait," she said, a touch breathless. The sun was bright, casting a halo around her that felt almost surreal. For a heartbeat, he wanted to step closer, to slip back into the intimacy they once shared. I needed some air." He took a step back, needing space, knowing what he was about to say would disrupt the fragile peace between them. "This isn't easy for me, Em." "I know," she replied softly. "It's not easy for me either. But can we talk? Really talk?" Her eyes searched his face, desperation lacing her tone. Jack hated seeing that look on her like a wild animal cornered. Yet he felt the same. "I'm not here to fight," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "But I can't pretend like everything is fine. I didn't just leave my family behind to come back and find this." He gestured vaguely toward the cafe entrance, where Mark's laughter still lingered like a bitter taste in his mouth. "I'm trying to navigate everything too," Emily replied. Her voice wavered, a hint of sadness creeping in. "Things changed while you were gone, Jack. I had to keep things together for the kids." Jack's chest tightened. And did it include him? The words felt heavy on his tongue, but he couldn't hold back. What is he doing here? How did he become so involved? "I can't explain everything right now." She looked away, biting her lip. "I've missed you, but we've built lives since then." She paused. "I thought this could be a fresh start for us. I wanted it to be." Jack's heart thudded painfully at her admission. A fresh start? Did she think they could go back to how things were? Did she still have feelings for him? The thought tugged at his heartstrings, filling him with both hope and dread. "Emily." He stepped closer, wanting to reach for her hand but stopping himself. "I came here hoping to reconnect. But every time I try, it feels like I'm looking at strangers." She nodded, tears threatening to spill. "I know it's not as simple as that." But the kids, her voice cracked, showing the depth of her struggle. "They're happy, Jack. I want to keep that. But at what cost?" The words burst out before he could catch them. "Am I supposed to just stand aside while he plays the role of dad?" Can't you try to see it from my perspective? Her voice raised a notch, the frustration evident. We've made a life, and it's not like I expected you to be gone forever. But you have to understand suddenly. A loud laugh erupted from inside the cafe, Mark's unmistakable tone echoing through the open door, and Jack felt the urge to bolt. The sight of Mark kneeling with the triplets, laughter spilling into the air like bubbles, only deepened the chasm in Jack's heart. Listen, Emily, I need time, he said finally, holding her gaze with a mix of sorrow and regret. You think I walked away willingly? I would do anything to be the dad they deserve. I never meant to push you away, she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. In that moment, everything came crashing down. Jack felt the weight of the past, present, and future all crushing him at once. Would he ever find a way back into her heart, back into his children's lives, without tearing anything else apart? Jack. The sudden call startled both of them. Mark was now standing at the door, a wide grin on his face. Everything okay out here? Jack's breath caught. This felt like a showdown, and he couldn't deny he was feeling cornered. Just catching up, Emily replied too quickly, a polite smile plastered on her face as she wiped away her tears. Jack turned to her, pulse racing. Can we continue this later? Yeah, of course, she said, though uncertainty swam under her resolve. As Jack turned back toward the cafe, he gritted his teeth, ready for whatever came next. He couldn't let Mark take his place, not without a fight. But deep down, he couldn't shake the chilling question. Was he too late to save what truly mattered? And as he stepped inside, caught in the web of emotions swirling around him, he couldn't help but wonder if Mark's presence might be the catalyst for a transformation he never expected. What was next for them all? The cafe was bustling as Jack stepped inside, a jarring contrast to the weight on his chest. The air was thick with the aroma of coffee and baked goods, but all he could smell was the sharp tang of tension. Mark leaned casually against the counter, smiling at the triplets as if they were an extension of himself. A knot twisted tighter in Jack's stomach. The children's laughter bounced off the walls, innocent and carefree. He watched as Mark tousled their hair, playing the doting stepfather with ease, something Jack had once done. Memories swept over him like a wave. He thought of the times he sat on the floor, building towers with blocks, or singing silly songs to coax laughter from their tiny mouths. Now he was a shadow in a scene he should be a part of. Hey Dad! One of the triplets, Lucy, spotted him first. Her eyes lit up with a joy that momentarily lifted the weight from Jack's heart. She darted across the cafe to wrap her small arms around his waist, and he felt a shiver of warmth rush through him. Hey, Pumpkin, he replied, kneeling to embrace her tightly. Her laughter was enough to make him swallow back the ache in his throat. Are you staying for story time? She asked, her excitement bubbling over. Jack's gaze flicked to Mark, who stood watching with a faint smile, but there was an edge of challenge in his eyes. I was just catching up with your mom, Jack said, and it felt strange to refer to Emily that way. Come on. We're reading the big red book. Lucy pulled at his hand, her small fingers wrapping around his, eager to lead him to their usual spot by the window. Jack hesitated, glancing back at Emily, who stood by the cafe's entrance, caught between hope and fear. He could see the questions swirling in her gaze. Would she want him to join? Would it cause more problems? But seeing Lucy's eager face washed over the fears with a mix of courage and longing. Okay, just for a bit, he finally said, letting Lucy tug him along. As they settled down at the table, the others joined them. The other two triplets, Zach and Mia, clambered onto the chairs, sitting close to him and practically bouncing with delight. Tell us a story, Dad, Zach shouted, his eyes sparkling. Felt like stepping back in time. Jack took the big red book from Mia's hands and opened it, his voice flowing naturally during the familiar tale. Laughter erupted as he played characters in exaggerated, silly voices, and he felt warmth spreading through the air around them. For those moments, everything else faded, the tension with Emily, the presence of Mark. It was just him and the kids, stacked in a bubble of happiness. But something in the back of his mind prickled Mark's presence, the unspoken rivalry for what was rightfully his. He glanced up and found Mark standing silently at the counter, coffee in hand, staring intently at the scene unfolding. The smile was still there, but it didn't reach his eyes as the story came to an end. Lucy snuggled against Jack, her head resting on his shoulder. "That was the best," she said, yawning a little. Jack's heart swelled, but as he looked around, he couldn't ignore the distant gaze of Emily. Her expression was a mixture of conflicting emotions: relief, worry, and something deeper that he couldn't decipher. The moment was perfect, yet it felt precarious. He remembered the weight of the conversation they'd begun outside, the unspoken words echoing in his heart. He needed to confront everything, the doubts and the painful truths, all while keeping this fragile joy he'd just begun to reclaim. As he glanced back at Mark, Jack caught a glimpse of determination in his eyes. He realized then that the stakes were higher than he thought. "Jack." Emily's voice broke through his thoughts, and he turned to her as she came closer, the urgency in her steps pulling him in. "Can we talk again, please? This can't wait, not anymore." Jack's heart raced. It was time for answers, for clarity. Would this conversation bring them closer together or push them further apart? And as the voices of the triplets faded into the background, a storm brewed within him, knowing this could change everything. How would he face what was waiting for him? Jack felt the stirring dread in the pit of his stomach. Emily's request hung in the air, heavy and palpable, weaving through the laughter of the triplets like a dark cloud. He took a deep breath, trying to ground himself. He wanted to savor this moment, this flicker of joy he found within the hug of his daughter, but it was tugged away by the seriousness of Emily's tone. "Sure," Jack said, trying to inject even a hint of calm into his voice. "Let us step outside." The cafe buzzed around them, filled with smiles and the clinking of silverware. But Jack felt like he was pulling away from the world, inching towards something quiet and intense. He followed Emily out the door, the cool air hitting him like a splash of water, awakening his senses. Once outside, the bustling sounds of the cafe faded, leaving just the distant hum of traffic and the soft rustle of leaves. Jack turned to Emily, searching her face. She looked the same, yet different, stronger and more vulnerable all at once. "What's on your mind?" he asked. Emily looked away, her eyes scanning the street as if searching for the right words. "I didn't expect to see you today." "Yeah, well, I needed to see the kids." The honesty felt raw, almost painful to admit. "But it's more than that. I've been trying to process everything, like you and Mark. What does it mean for us?" She took a deep breath, clutching the sleeve of her jacket tightly. "Mark, he has been supportive. He loves the kids, and I thought it was what I needed. But lately, I've been feeling confused." With every second, Jack felt hope flickering like a fragile candle. "Confused about what?" "About us," she said, finally meeting his gaze. "I've missed you. I thought." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "I thought moving on would be easier, but it's not." Her honesty rattled him, awakening feelings that he thought he buried. "You don't know how much I've thought about you and the kids. It's not like I turned my back on any of you. I wish I could have been there more." Emily nodded slowly, her expression open yet guarded. "I get that, Jack. But it's complicated. The kids, they love their time with you. I see how happy they are, how much they need you. And then I think about Mark and how he wants to be there for them too." There it was, the unspoken rivalry, the aching reality. Jack wished things had turned out differently, that he could easily be the father he wanted to be without the complications of the past. "So what are we saying here? Do we just pretend this is okay?" His voice wavered as doubt clawed at him. "No, it's not just about pretending." Her urgency propelled her words forward. "I want you to be in their lives. I just what? Want me to share the role of their dad with someone else? Watch Mark be everything I was supposed to be?" Anger laced his tone, unexpectedly erupting. But deep down, he felt the hurt, not towards her, but towards the situation, the reality that left them both feeling stranded. "Jack," Emily said softly, "it's not about replacing you. It's about finding a way to make things work. For them. For us. I still care about you. I want to understand how we can be a family, somehow. Her words landed hard, settling in the silence that enveloped them. Jack struggled with the implications, the reality of both wanting to protect his role and still feel the connection they had. Could they really find a way to be together amidst all the complications? As he opened his mouth to respond, Lucia's voice drifted from inside the cafe, breaking the tension. The sounds of her giggles filled the air, a reminder of the happiness they could share despite everything. "Give me a minute," Jack finally said, turning back to the door, renewed determination mingling with uncertainty. He needed clarity, but could they handle the truth of their feelings? And when he stepped back inside, he realized everything might depend on what he was willing to risk. With the daunting possibility of reconciling love and responsibility before him, he felt a weight of anticipation. What would happen if he took a leap of faith? But just as he caught Mark's eye, from across the cafe, a thought struck him. What if Mark had a plan of his own? Jack felt the heat rise in his chest as he faced Mark. The man was seated, relaxed, and engrossed in a book, a picture of confidence that made Jack's gut twist. What was he planning? Why was he so calm when Jack felt like he was caught in a storm? Taking a deep breath, Jack forced himself to approach the table. He had to know what Mark was thinking, what he wanted. As he got closer, Mark looked up and smiled. But there was a challenge in his gaze, as if he was prepared for a duel of words. "Hey, Jack," Mark said, his voice smooth and steady. "Nice to see you again." Jack nodded, irritation bubbling just beneath the surface. "You too. I saw you with Emily." "Yeah, she told me you were here," Mark replied, casually setting his book down. "I'm glad you came by. The kids were excited to see you." Jack's heart sank. The tone of Mark's voice carried an underlying implication. Right? He hesitated, trying to gauge where this conversation was headed. "What are you trying to do here, Mark?" Mark's expression shifted slightly. "I just want what's best for the kids." Jack couldn't help but take a step forward, leaning closer. "And what about Emily? What does she want?" There was an edge to his voice that he couldn't mask. Every word felt loaded, a bomb waiting to go off. Mark met his gaze, unflinching. "Emily has made her choice. She chose me, Jack. You've had your chance. It's time to let go." Jack felt the heat in his face. "I'm not just going to back off. They're my kids, too. Care about them." Mark shrugged, his demeanor still seemingly unfazed. "It's not just about care. It's about stability. A family setting where they can thrive." Anger pulsed through Jack, twisting his insides. "And you think that means keeping me at a distance? I want to be part of their lives." It was a desperate plea wrapped in anger, but the truth hung heavily in the air. Mark's brows furrowed, and for the first time he seemed to consider Jack's words. "I understand, but this is hard for all of us. Emily needs to figure out what she wants." He looked away, as if the weight of the situation was starting to bear down on him as well. Jack felt a flicker of something. Hope? Frustration? "Does she talk to you about me? About us?" Mark sighed, folding his hands on the table. "She doesn't want to hurt you, Jack. But she's trying to move forward. Maybe you should think about that, too." In that moment, Jack felt a wave of sadness wash over him. Mark wasn't wrong. They were all trying to move forward. But how could he when every road seemed to lead back into complications? He couldn't stand by and watch another man fill a space that was meant for him. "Look," Jack said, his voice lowered but firm. "I used to think I was done fighting. But when it comes to my kids, I'll fight for them. And for Emily. If there's a way to make this work, I'll be there." Mark's nod was slow, as though weighing the implications. "And if she chooses you?" Jack could almost feel the stakes rise in the air. Was it possible for everything to change, for things to mend? His heart raced, a mix of fear and determination swelling inside. "Then I'll be ready to face that too," he admitted. It was an unsettling admission, but not as unsettling as realizing that Mark's gaze softened, just a fraction. "Just remember, emotions run deep. Whatever happens next will require honesty from all of us." As tension hung thick between them, Jack's mind spun. Could honesty really bridge the growing chasm between them all? Before he could contemplate further, Lucy called out again, her excited voice breaking the solemn air. Jack's heart leaped. She had no idea about the weight of their conversation. The innocence of her laughter buzzed in his ears, a reminder of what truly mattered. "Dad, come play with us," she shouted, beaming from the children's table. "Yeah, Dad," joined in Tommy, his twin. The innocence of their enthusiasm pierced through the heaviness weighing down Jack's heart. And just like that, the moment shifted. Could this chaos lead to clarity, to a future where they all found common ground? But as Jack took a deep breath and moved toward his kids, he felt Mark's eyes on him. The questions remained: what was Mark really planning, and how much more tangled would this web become? Jack crouched down to his children's level, their faces lighting up like little suns. Lucy bounced on her heels, her golden curls bouncing too. Tommy tugged at Jack's sleeve, his wide eyes sparkling with excitement. For a moment, the storm raging inside Jack quieted as he felt the warmth of their love. "'Kay, what's the game?" he asked, his voice playful, masking the seriousness of the earlier conversation. "Tag. You're it," Lucy yelled, dashing away. The challenge in her eyes made Jack chuckle, and he took off after her, adrenaline surging through him. The laughter that followed felt like a balm, soothing the raw emotions still swirling in his heart as Jack chased his daughter around the cafe. He caught glimpses of Mark watching them from the table, arms crossed and lips pressed into a thin line. Seeing Mark's reaction only fueled Jack's determination. He danced between tables, weaving through chairs, the world narrowing down to the joy of this moment. Jack paused, catching his breath, and turned to look back at Tommy, who had taken a break to catch his breath. "You ready, buddy?" he smirked, knowing Tommy would want to join the chase soon. The boy nodded vigorously, cheeks flushed with excitement. "Come on, let's tag team," Jack called, and he felt something within him shift, his heart swelling with hope. Maybe this was a part of moving forward. Maybe it didn't have to mean losing everything. But the moment felt bittersweet. Could Jack really carve a space for himself in their lives again? Did Emily see that? Or was she too blinded by her present choices? And what if Mark continued to hold on like a vice? The thought gnawed at him. After a few rounds of tag, Lucy plopped onto the floor, giggling, while Tommy crashed beside her, breathless. Jack joined them, lying flat on his back, staring up at the ceiling, relishing this fleeting sense of normalcy. "Dad, you're so slow," Lucy giggled, nudging him with her foot. "Yeah, I'm almost old," Jack responded with mock seriousness, and they burst into laughter together. But as his children laughed, Jack's chest tightened again with the worry that lingered just beneath the surface. The world was shifting around him, and he didn't want a single thing to change between them. Did they even realize what their laughter meant? "Dad." Tommy's voice suddenly morphed into a more serious tone. "Are you sad?" That question, innocent yet sharp, hung heavy in the air. Jack turned to look at his son, whose innocent gaze felt both intimidating and vulnerable. "No, buddy. I'm just thinking a lot." Lucy wormed her way to his side, resting her head on his shoulder. "About us? About Mom?" Jack froze. The honesty in her small voice pierced right through him. "Yeah," he finally admitted softly, feeling the truth of it cradle him. "About all of us." Before he could respond further, Mark was at their side, a shadow looming as he cleared his throat. "Is everything okay?" he asked, concern flickering across his face. But Jack caught a glint of something else, a protective instinct surfacing. He held his breath, unsure of how to navigate this moment. Jack could feel the tension building again, a new wave of uncertainty crashing over him. What would Mark say to his kids? What would Emily think of this? "Yeah, everything's great. Just family stuff," Jack said, plastering on a smile that felt a bit forced. Mark nodded, studying the trio closely. "We should all sit together." "Feels right." Jack's heart raced. Would sitting together mean a new start or just deepen the divide? He glanced at Lucy and Tommy, who had now turned their attention to Mark, heads tilted in curiosity. "All right, let us do it." The words slipped out before Jack could completely grasp their weight. As they settled in, he could feel the air shift again. Was there a way for them all to find understanding in this jumbled mess? Jack knew there were layers to navigate. Deep feelings and unspoken words clouded their interactions. But at that moment, as laughter echoed, he realized they might just be on the precipice of change. Could this chaotic reunion start moving them toward clarity, or would it only lead to more tangled questions? And what if they stumbled upon a truth none of them expected? As they found their seats, a silence lingered for a moment, heavy and thick. Jack could hear the quiet buzz of conversations from the surrounding tables, but felt like they were encapsulated in their own little bubble. He shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Mark, who was still studying him with scrutiny. "Kids," Mark began, attempting to be casual, "do you remember that time I took you to the park? We played soccer, Tommy, you scored a goal." Tommy's eyes brightened, a smile breaking across his face. "Yeah. And you bought ice cream after." Jack watched the interaction closely, a knot forming in his stomach. Was Mark trying to replace him, or was he merely being a good person? The uncertainty gnawed at him. "That was fun." Lucy chimed in, her enthusiasm never wavering. "Can we do that again soon?" Mark chuckled. "Definitely. Maybe even this weekend?" Jack felt the air squeeze out of his lungs. The kids looked so delighted, and Jack couldn't deny a flicker of jealousy. How was he supposed to grow closer to his children when someone else was busy embedding himself in their lives? He knew Mark cared, but how much? "Sure. Let me know what you come up with," Jack said, forcing a smile while his heart felt like it was in a vice. The camaraderie washed over him like a warm wave, but the chill still crept beneath it, reminding him of the battle looming. "Hey, can we play Family Feud?" Lucy suggested, her eyes lighting up with mischief. "Mom usually lets us." Jack's heart sank. He had loved playing games with his kids back when things were simpler. He wondered if Emily would approve of him joining them now, a shadow in their past, far removed from the present they shared. "Why not?" Jack jumped in, trying to sound enthusiastic. "I used to be pretty good at that game. I bet I could give you a run for your money." "Yes, let us do it," Tommy cheered. That simple cheer filled Jack with hope. Maybe this game could help bridge the gap. He watched as Lucy and Tommy climbed up onto their seats, animatedly chatting about their favorite moments, and for a fleeting second, he felt connected, woven tightly into their joy. Mark tapped his fingers on the table and offered a faint smile. "I'm sure you'd be a formidable opponent, Jack." His tone was cordial, but Jack could sense the unspoken tension lurking beneath. The subtle pride in Mark's voice gnawed at him as they began to play. Jack found himself slipping into a rhythm. The kids threw questions back and forth, laughter spilling like music in the air. But as the game progressed, he felt unease creeping back. Each correct answer from the kids was celebrated with warm applause from Mark, while Jack felt his cheer waning. "Who's our top family player?" Lucy asked, her grin stretching wide, glancing between the two men. "Hold on," Jack interjected, his voice a little sharper than intended. "We can work together, right? Winning isn't everything." The kids paused, their expressions shifting, uncertainty written on their faces. Silence fell again, heavier than before. Jack's heart raced, the tension thickening. Lucy and Tommy exchanged glances. Then Lucy spoke up quietly, "We just want to have fun." "Yeah, Dad," Tommy added, his small voice filled with concern. Jack took a deep breath. He needed to navigate these twists gently. "Course, you're right. Let us just have fun." Mark watched closely, the corners of his mouth betraying a hint of a smile. But Jack sensed the challenge now more than ever. He had to prove he still belonged in their lives. As laughter ensued once more, the atmosphere shifted. But still, Jack felt a strange tug-of-war inside. He wanted so much to belong, yet questions loomed like dark clouds. Would he ever find a way to truly reconnect? Or had the simple bond he shared with his children already begun to fade, overshadowed by looming uncertainties? The answer lay just out of reach, and for the first time, Jack wondered if what he truly feared wasn't loss. Perhaps it was a deeper truth hidden in the laughter of now. Jack felt the game winding down, yet his emotions churned like a stormy sea in the depths of his heart. The laughter around him was vibrant, but inside, A dark swirl of insecurity wrestled for control. As he watched Lucy and Tommy high-five Mark after a successful answer, a sting of jealousy shot through him. He had always been the one they cheered for, the one they looked at with wide-eyed admiration. If he wasn't careful, he might lose that forever. After the final round wrapped up, Jack set his jaw tight. It was time to confront the swirling uncertainty and fight for his place not just among his children but in Emily's life as well. "I think we need to make this a regular thing," he heard himself say, trying to sound casual, but the weight of the moment hung between them like a frayed thread threatening to snap. "I want to be here more. For all of you." Mark's expression briefly darkened, but he quickly masked it with a smile. Of course, the more the merrier. There was something hidden beneath those words. A challenge, perhaps, but Jack chose to ignore it. Jack looked at Emily, whose gaze traveled back and forth between them, reflecting a mixture of pride and unease. "Can we set something up for next week?" he asked, trying to keep the tone light, but his heart pounded in his chest, hoping she'd say yes. "Absolutely," she replied, her eyes lighting up with a glimmer of hope. "The kids would love it." "Great," Jack breathed out, aching for the approval he had too long denied himself. But as he spoke, he understood that this was only the beginning. He needed to make this work, to fight through the uncertainties and find his footing again in the lives of those he loved most. Just then, a flash of light caught his eye, a notification pinging on his phone. Distractedly, he glanced down and saw a message from an unexpected source. It was a photo of the kids, taken moments before, captured in the joy of their new game. Big smiles stretched across their faces. It was a reminder of what he had always wanted: a place to belong. With renewed determination, he stood up. "I'll be right back. Just a sec," he said, giving no time for questions before heading to the café's restroom. Once inside, he splashed cold water on his face, willing the storm of emotions within to settle. He needed clarity, after all. Could he really approach Emily and Mark on equal terms? After what felt like an eternity in silence, Jack took a deep breath and headed back to the table. As he walked out, he spotted Lucy peering eagerly at him, her eyes full of anticipation. "Dad, did you get us some lollipops?" she asked with gleeful excitement. "Just a quick break. But how about we get ice cream next instead?" Jack suggested with a smile, a born familiarity blossoming between them. "Yes, still bounding with energy," she cheered. "And chocolate sprinkles." It struck him then the simple joy they shared was worth fighting for. "Let us head out for ice cream, everyone," Jack announced, unable to hide the warmth in his voice. The kids erupted in excitement, racing for their coats. With Lucy and Tommy at his side, Jack turned to Emily, who was standing still, a mix of emotions etched across her face. "Mind joining us, Emily?" he asked, his heart pounding at the prospect of stepping into the family zone again. A moment stretched, her gaze darting back and forth. Then she nodded slowly, a faint smile breaking through. "I'd love to." Jack felt a sigh of relief wash over him as they stepped outside. The sun hung just above the horizon, casting a golden hue over the world that felt full of promise. Laughter bubbled around them, and for the first time in years, Jack felt a flicker of hope igniting inside him. The chance for healing, for a makeover of their faded love story, was stirring again. "Let us go create some more memories. You lead the way," he said to his kids. They ran ahead, high on excitement. He and Emily followed, shoulders brushing, the warmth of proximity igniting the familiar, fluttering beat in his heart. It wasn't going to be easy, but Jack felt a new chapter unfolding. Maybe Mark had a share in their story, but Jack was ready to reclaim his part. He was committed to finding a way not only to be a father again but perhaps to rebuild bridges with Emily. As they walked, he turned to Emily. "I know there's a lot we need to talk about, but today let us focus on the kids. Can we do that?" She looked at him, and the strange mix of feelings reflected in her eyes spoke volumes. "Yes, I think that's a good idea." He saw the glimmer of hope in her heart too, and as they approached the ice cream shop, surrounded by love and laughter, Jack realized they were all stepping forward together. The road ahead might be laden with challenges, but side by side, they could tackle anything. He had a renewed purpose, and with a full heart determined to mend what was frayed, he would make this work. The kids jumped in delight at the sweets before them, and as Jack stood beside Emily, it felt like they were on the edge of something beautiful, a world that could still hold love, laughter, and possibilities unlimited. Today, it was a joyful reunion. Tomorrow held the promise of a transformed life, and together, they were ready to navigate this roller coaster. Now was the time to brave the future, and Jack was ready to embrace it all. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support this channel. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending below. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this beautiful transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Your support matters.